Hovey's Knives of China Pepper Knife Cooks Mexican. William Hovey Smith, 2016. I'm the author of Backyard Deer Hunting, and here we're going to make salsa and guacamole. This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman, and also the owner of a new company, Hovey's Knives of China. And today, I'm going to do tacos. And first, however, I'm going to make up a homemade salsa. And we have on the table these very colorful peppers and such, and that's what we're going to use. As usual, I'm working with the cheapest obtainable ingredients, including some of these which are a little past their prime, but were available at discount prices. So we'll tell you what to do with these as we go along. Salsa is basically a tomato-rich liquid with a lot of solids, which consist, among other things, of always peppers and always onion. And that's exactly what we're going to use. Now I have 2 avocados on the table too. So we're also going to do a guacamole, which is nothing more than crushed avocados with a little mayonnaise and some pepper and salt. So that's what we're going to do right now. And I also have some deer meat over here thawing on the stove. And that, in a later video, will actually complete the taco making by browning the deer meat with seasonings as well as making the taco. So you'll know how to do both by looking at 2 of these videos. Yep. All right. So what we're going to do. This is the knife we're going to use. This is my pepper and small veggie knife. And it is unique in that it is ground on only one side of the blade. This means that when you cut, you're able to cut a straight slice through something like an onion or a pepper. Yeah, and I'll show you that in just a moment. This little brother here is the small utility knife. Now this is made for people with small hands. It's also very useful for caterers. And I have a previous video where I illustrate this use. So, to get started, now since this is a pepper knife, we're going to use it to work peppers. Yeah, clunk, right here. Okay? Well, the first thing you do with a pepper is go ahead and slice it in half. Now, peppers have seeds. And the seeds, very often, are hotter than the meat of the pepper. But these are bell peppers. And their seeds are not so hot. You can see them here. Some are discolored, some are not. When the seeds are not discolored, I go ahead and put some of these in. They just give a little added texture and taste. If they are the least bit discolored, that means they have a little mold on them as a rule. No big deal. You just discard them. First, okay. Now you see this mass right here? Yeah, that's a little moldy. So we're going to cut that entire part of the pepper away. Likewise here. Likewise here. Okay. So we're using only the fresh parts of the pepper itself. Actually, we're losing more of this pepper than I had expected. On this side at least. Cut away this webbing, which is basically no taste at all. Some may criticize my using store-bought taco shells instead of making my own. Well, it takes an awful long time to make a good taco shell. So no thanks, I'll pass that task on to someone else. As a specialty video, maybe one of these days I'll do one, but I don't do it as a regular matter, of course. Now, we have this green pepper. Same flavor, treated exactly the same way. So we have 2 whole peppers, more or less, more like 1.5 actually, in the salsa thus far. But again, these are pretty mild peppers. Nice thing about a broad-bladed knife like this is you can use it like a spatula, as I'm doing now. Okay. Yeah, just about everything I cook is going to have some onion in it. Of course, the salsa absolutely needs it. And this is a smallish onion. Such things go. This is also a Spanish onion. It has some flavor to it, unlike the Vidalia sweets and some of the onions from the Rio Grande Valley, which are very mild tasting indeed, and you don't get any real flavor from them, at least I don't. So what you want to do with these onions is actually choose one that has flavor for your salsa, and then you can cut it like so, and then proceed to dice. Their onions. My eyes are watering a little bit. Now is the time you do not want to wipe your eyes with your fingers, by the way. Not desired. Okay? Now, these are Roma tomatoes. I like the Roma tomatoes because I like their both taste and texture. Now, I've had some of these longer than others. This one has a little dried wrinkle here. That means it's not as fresh as some. I'm going to reserve one tomato, the freshest, to be garnished on the outside of my tacos. So this is the greenest, it's the freshest. So this one I'm going to set aside. The rest of these I will put in the taco itself. There is a little bit of mold right there. Okay, just cut away. No biggie. Actually, slice is easier and better if you slice from the underside rather than from the skin side. Now, could you peel your tomatoes? Yeah, you could, but I do not. The cooking is going to soften the skins, and it's really not worth a bother, particularly with Roma tomatoes. That's what you want. That's what you're putting them in there for. Now I am going to put in, just lost a tear there. I am going to put in some canned tomatoes as well, just to add some extra liquid and some bulk. But most of the flavor and texture of this is going to be transmitted by these cut up vegetables. And we're also going to add a splash of vinegar. There. Now, I would use some dried peppers if I had them, but it's not dried pepper season. Those are available in the fall. So, what we're going to do is, this is pickled okra, and it is hot. It's been pickled with peppers and vinegar. And this, caps and all, will give some real heat to the mix. And let's see. Yeah. Nice red pepper here. Add it. I once asked a chef in China what the toughest thing he had to cut, and surprisingly enough, he replied it was peppers. He was using dried chili peppers. He was finding those very difficult to cut. But these knives work with dried chilies very, very fine. So okay, this is ready to add 2 cans of crushed tomatoes and go on the stove. Here we have our salsa on the stove. Now we have added our 2 cans of tomatoes. One happened to be chili ready and one happened to be Italian diced. So both of these have seasonings in them as well. So this is a dish that you will season as you go along. And now the rest of the process just consists of a slow boiling. Now other variations you could have done. You could have put these in a frying pan and sort of caramelize some of these first, and that adds a little different flavor profile to the entire dish. That you could have done. I have it in cast iron. This is an enamel pot. You want to cook salsa in a heavy pot. I like the enamel for an acid dish like the salsa because the acid does not attack the natural season of cast iron products. Now I've tasted it already and the pepper profile is about right. It will get a little hotter as the liquid evaporates. And I'll probably add a little salt. But that you do as it fairly well gets towards the end. You don't throw it in now because it's very easy to get it too salty or too peppery. I'll now let you observe the mysterious black arts of making guacamole. Actually, there are none. It's very simple. You have your avocado pears. And this is as they should be. They're black. Some people will consider these spoiled, but actually these are just right. And I could use my smaller knife, my utility knife, to peel these, but since we started off with a pepper knife, this is the one we'll use. Now the guacamole fruit has a fairly tough skin. And it peels off remarkably easy. As you see, it just slides off practically. Just like so. No big deal. It even pulls off. Wonk, wonk. How easy can you get? The only real hazard here is the pear itself is slick, and if you can drop it, it can fall out of the hands. Slice, separate. There you go. It's a little dark right here, just fine. You see this has a rather large seed here, which plucks out. Cuts around. The only hazard here is you don't want to cut yourself with your own knife while you're doing this, or you want to feel what you're doing. And this is the reason I like a heavier knife, because you can control it better. Okay. There we have one skit. And you can do exactly the same with this one as we will. And the large width of this knife acts very much like a pallet. And so it collects the products, and you can just very easily slide it off into your container. Now, step 2. When you make guacamole, you mix mayonnaise with it. So we have mayonnaise. Okay. And to 2 pear, we put 1 tablespoon and a half of mayonnaise, and we proceed to mash. And this goes on for some time. Now, depending on your desires, at about this stage, you can stop at any stage. You can leave it a little hunky if you want. You can have it absolutely smooth. I personally, being a guy, yeah, I like it a little bit on the hunky side. A few chunks in it. Now, so that's basically your guacamole. And let's see how it tastes. Good. Just a little bit on the flat side. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to add one of our little pickled okras here to it. And that is going to give it a kick. Because this okra is quite hot, and you want to dice it so that you get the seed and the little fragments distributed throughout the product, not just in one hump that you find. You wouldn't want to do that. Okay. Again, we put it on our knife flat as our palette to help build this dish. And we proceed to again mix very, very thoroughly. And I'm also going to add a sprinkle of salt and a sprinkle of pepper. Now, what do we got? Now that is a distinctive, good guacamole. And a little bit of salt and pepper really helps it. Otherwise it's sort of bland and tasteless. The coarse crushed pepper gives it a little crunch between the teeth occasionally, which is surprising. Good flavor, Excellent, excellent product. Yeah. This is something that any restaurant, anywhere, will be proud to serve. We have tasted our guacamole, and now it is time to taste our salsa. And here we have it. It is chunky as you see. It rises above the level of the liquid. So we have some real solids in here. Now what can you do with it? If you find that you've made it and you're about to taste it and you taste it and it is too peppery, it is too hot, well, you can take a can of niblet corn, yeah, and add to it and proceed to cut it with more and more until you get it down to the level that you want it. Now there have been corns and salsas forever. They're not commonly served in restaurants, but in Mexico you will find such things. So you can do a corn-based salsa just as well as you can do a salsa that has, you know, basically nothing but tomatoes and these peppers I put in it. So corn is not an outrageous ingredient to put in the salsa. Okay? What if it's too acid? You can sweeten it, but not with sugar. What you do is use baking powder or baking soda, very sparingly. You start off with a 1/4 teaspoon and you stir that in and it will actually fizz, bubble. And then you stir that in and you taste it, and sure enough, it will start tasting sweeter and sweeter, but don't go too far, because you can give the whole thing an off taste of soda if you do. Okay? What if you bite on it and it's too hot and you've got to do something with your mouth? Okay. You could always have a beer, of course, typical solution. Or have some crackers with some ordinary butter on. This will alleviate the burning in your mouth quicker than anything else. Yeah. Okay. Now, oftentimes when you go to a Mexican restaurant, you'll be served a little bowl of salsa like this, and you'll be served some chips like this. And you want to make sure the salsa has the right consistency. In short, that you can actually dip it. And as you see, you can. And you can get a fair amount of product, and it stands proud on the chip. So this is a good physical test. How does this salsa physically taste? Well, it tastes a little sweet because of the bell peppers, and in particular the yellow bell pepper, I suspect. You could add a little more vinegar and make it a little more acid, or you could leave it just like it is, and it would be, either way, just fine. Now this has enough acid in it that it will keep in a sealed container in the refrigerator almost indefinitely. So you can put this in a glass jar. You shouldn't store it in metal, obviously, but you can put this in a glass jar and it will keep indefinitely until you finally eat it up some month or so from now, depending on how much salt you use. But, you know, this is fine. Now the danger of cooking like this, particularly if this is a party and you have people tasting and adding and suggesting and whatever, by the time you get your meal fixed, all the ingredients will be ate up. Yeah. And already we'll have consumed all your salsa and all your guacamole. I mean, that's going to go in a hurry. So after you taste it, you better put it in a safe place or you're not going to have it left. So go ahead and enjoy a little of it, but save some for later, guys. Yeah. So in the next video, we'll get around to finishing the taco. For now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe, goodbye, God bless, and see you next time. I have simple, easy-to-cook recipes in backyard deer hunting, crossbow hunting, and also in practical bow fishing, with more advanced recipes in extreme muzzleloading. I also have a series of books on muzzleloading guns, including hunting with muzzleloading shotguns and smoothbore muskets, and muzzleloaders for hunters. I have a new series of books under the Profit brand, the first of which is Ideas for New Businesses, Starting Your Own Million or Billion Dollar Business. Here's a blurb about me and the book. Now, I'll have a follow-up video where I actually get around to making the taco. Yeah. Now, this small pepper and veggie knife is an extremely useful kitchen knife. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 500 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.